some gap that lies in the home device using. So why are we going to do this? I'm sorry, this is our content. So the first thing is is introduction. So why are we going to do this? So this is an X that shows what is used in home and what is used outside of the house, and what is some device that is fixed into one place and something that is mobile. Well, easily we can figure out a lot of things that such as personal computer and TV, and this stereo is fixed in the home, and something that MP3 player and cell phone is used outside the house. So that is common for everyday life. But what is interesting is this two part. So what can we do to find something that is mobile that we're also using in home? So we are going to find if there are some needs to use cell phones or MP3 players that's lying in this part. With this purpose, we just start our interviews. The interview protocol is something like this. This is the first protocol. We mainly focus on the interviewee's daily routine to find out what they need and how to act with their electronics and how to connect to the internet. And after we done the first turn of the interviews, the person of Panasonic can come to talk with us and to let us to narrow down into a certain area. Then we have a second interview protocol. It's mainly about how they act with their cell phones, especially home. This is the main topic of the protocols. It's something like what function on the cell phone do you use? Where do you keep their phones? Outside house or inside house? How do they charge their phones? Then we collect a lot of insights. These insights are all come from the US interviews. It's something like 6 pages. And it's really a lot, and take us about 2 hours to do the first turn of classify this. And this is what we can do for the limited time. So we just pick out some interesting areas that we can do it deeper. This is something like cell phone actions. Maybe they keep in the pocket, and sometimes they keep in the desk. But I think most of the Americans keep the cell phones in the pocket even they are at home. But that is different in China. Yes, and do they use cell phones to send emails? Yes, they do a lot. And also there's another category, some about individual connections. Maybe this is something similar with Chen Xiaoli's study. But it's still an area that we're interested in, and some others. Fortunately, we have a tools of a framework, so we'll pick up three areas that we're most interested in to introduce what we find from these insights. So let Antal introduce the rest.
Yes, thank you, Johnson. After the interview, we try to use frameworks to analyze our data. So first we use hierarchies to try to analyze communication needs. You know, each individual have different levels of the communication needs. At the basic level, we name it stay alone. It means you don't want to communicate from others. You want some personal space and no interrupt. So this is his needs. If you go to upper level, it is acquaintance. It means for each individual, he wants to communicate with acquaintance. But the needs for the communication with this kind of person is just keep in touch, but not very often. So it's different from stay alone, and also different from another upper level. Another upper level is you want to communicate with close friend. For close friend, you need to keep in touch frequently and smoothly, and you want to know each other's status. It means you want to know what his emotion, what his life now, and something like that. And as the most up level, we name it the family. It means for each individual, family is very important in his or her life. So he or she wants to communicate with family very, very often. I think it is much often than another 3 level. So we think the family, the communication between family is whenever you need it, and keep in touch nearly all the time. So the second example is you can't live without iPhone. This is another interview from USA. We use timeline to analyze this interview. In the interview, there's a person who at the morning he will use iPhone to search for the news, and in the morning he will walk with the music on all the time on his iPhone, and he uses iPhone very often. But sometimes he wants to get some drink, so he needs to leave his iPhone for a very short time. Or in the noon, he wants to get some food and leave the iPhone for some short time. And sometimes he just leave the iPhone because he forgot to bring it. So very interesting is that he feel very uncomfortable if he leave from the iPhone for a long time, maybe 5 minutes. Yeah. So he will feel uncomfortable, and he want to search the iPhone and get it back. I think this is a gap for the people in modern life. They use the phone very often. So in some extent, they are dependent on the phone. So when they leave from the phone, they feel very uncomfortable. So I think this is a very interesting thing. And even during the interview in the US, he just keep using his iPhone in the interview. So saying iPhone is meaning a lot to that person. And if he lived a long time, he will feel uncomfortable. That's the gap.